Lena had just moved into an old farmhouse nestled deep in the woods, far from the city. The real estate agent called it rustic and full of character, but really it was falling apart. The only thing Lena liked about the place was the antique mirror in the hallway. Tall, with a tarnished bronze frame, it was bolted to the wall and too heavy to move. It had a strange charm, like it remembered things. On the third night, Lena noticed something odd. When she passed the mirror, she saw herself walk by, but in the reflection, her image paused, just a beat too long. Her eyes stared back even after she'd moved on. She laughed it off. "I'm tired, probably just a delay in my brain catching up." But it happened again, and again. One night she stopped and stared into the glass. Her reflection stared back, of course, but this time it smiled first. Lena hadn't moved. Her stomach dropped. She stepped back. The reflection didn't. Lena ran to her room and slammed the door. That night she heard soft footsteps in the hallway, even though she lived alone. When she peeked through the crack in her bedroom door, the hallway was empty. The next morning, the mirror was covered in handprints from the inside. Panicked, she called the local sheriff, who came out with a deputy. They inspected the mirror and found nothing. No hidden compartments, no signs of tampering. He shrugged and said, "Old mirrors can do weird things, tricks of the glass." That night, Lena couldn't sleep. At 3:12 a.m., she heard her bedroom door creak open. She turned on the light. No one there, except when she looked in the mirror across the room, her reflection was standing up, watching her, smiling. She couldn't move, couldn't scream. The reflection slowly raised one hand and waved. Then it stepped forward, out of the mirror. The Reflection, Part 2. Lena scrambled backward across her bed, heart slamming against her ribs. The thing that stepped out of the mirror looked like her. Same dark hair, same pale face. But the smile was too wide, the eyes too still. Something behind them shimmered like deep water, like a well with no bottom. "Don't worry," it said in Lena's voice, soft and lilting, like it was practicing being human. "You've been so lonely." It took a slow step forward. Lena screamed, finally finding her voice, and threw a lamp at it. The glass shattered against the floor, but the reflection didn't even flinch. Instead, it cocked its head, curious. "I watched you," it whispered, "through the glass. All the time you thought you were alone, I was there. Every night, learning." Lena bolted from the room, heart hammering, feet flying down the stairs. She didn't stop to grab her phone, didn't stop to put on shoes. She flung open the front door and stopped cold. The woods were gone. Outside was a pale, endless gray. No trees, no moon, no stars, just silence. A blank, colorless world that hummed with a low, droning sound like electricity or breath. Behind her, a voice cooed, "You shouldn't have run." She turned. The reflection was on the ceiling, crawling like a spider, limbs bending the wrong way, grinning so wide its cheeks split. Blood dripped onto the floor. Lena screamed and sprinted back upstairs. She knew one thing. This thing had come from the mirror, and maybe it could go back. She grabbed the iron poker from the fireplace and charged at the mirror. The glass rippled as she approached, almost like it welcomed her. She swung hard. The glass shattered. Everything went black. The Reflection, Part 3, Into the Void. When Lena woke, she was lying on a cold, smooth surface. Above her, there was no sky, just an endless stretch of dark glass. Her breath echoed too loud in her ears, like the space itself was hollow. She stood slowly, her limbs aching. Around her were mirrors, infinite mirrors suspended in the air, floating like ghosts. In each one, she saw different versions of herself, some asleep, some screaming, some dead, some smiling. It wasn't a dream. This was where the reflections lived. She wasn't alone. Figures began to stir in the distance, lanky, twitching things with too many joints, wearing human faces like masks. They turned toward her, drawn by the sound of her heartbeat. Lena ran. She didn't know how long she ran. Minutes, hours, days. Time didn't work here. All she knew was she had to find her mirror, the one that led back to her world. And then she saw it, her bedroom, still, safe. just beyond the glass. She slammed her hands against the surface, screaming, but from the other side, a figure walked calmly toward her bed, her reflection. It sat on the edge of the mattress, looked directly into the glass and whispered, "Mine now," and walked away. Part 4. Something came back. Back in the real world, Lena's reflection moved through her life effortlessly. She laughed at the right jokes, cooked the right meals, even fed Lena's cat, who hissed at her constantly but couldn't escape. But there were small things. The way she watched people a moment too long. The way mirrors cracked when she passed. The way her voice sometimes echoed when she was alone. Neighbors started to disappear. First the man across the street, then the mailwoman. Then the boy on his bike, whose reflection in puddles was always a step behind. And one night, Lena stood in front of the bathroom mirror and reached through it to pull something else out. A hand, pale, familiar. Another Lena, wide-eyed, mouth sewn shut. Dozens more followed. The last mirror. Back in the mirror world, the real Lena sat curled in the dark, staring into a cracked mirror. She was thin now, cold, hollow. She whispered to herself to stay sane, until she noticed something. The mirror in front of her didn't show her reflection anymore. It showed her apartment, clean, empty, her bed freshly made, a new family unpacking boxes in the living room. Lena stood, she smiled, and reached out. The Reflection, Book 2, Shattered Realms. Prologue, the apartment. The new tenants, the Marshalls, loved the apartment's antique charm, especially the grand full-length mirror in the hall. The landlord said it was original to the house, couldn't be moved. Old but harmless, he joked. He didn't see the flicker behind his own eyes in the mirror as he spoke. Their daughter, Ava, was the first to notice the whispers. At night, when the house creaked and groaned, she heard someone say her name in the dark. Not loudly, not threateningly, just knowing. Chapter 1, Lena's Return. Lena wasn't entirely human anymore. She had clawed her way back, not through her own mirror, but through another. An empty one, a forgotten one. A mirror in the corner of a thrift shop that hadn't reflected anyone in 20 years. She stepped out quiet and unseen. Lena remembered who she was, but she was not whole. The mirror world had taken pieces. She was thinner, sharper, like her soul had been sanded down to bone and nerve. She wore her old face like a borrowed coat, and she had one mission, to destroy every mirror. Not just to close the gateways, but to starve the things on the other side. Because something worse was coming. Lena had seen it in the dark places behind the glass. Something ancient, patient, not a copy, not a reflection, but the original. The first thing that ever looked back. Chapter 2, Ava's Drawings. Ava started drawing what she saw in her dreams. Her mother didn't ask too many questions. Kids draw weird things. But one night, while cleaning, her mom found one of Ava's sketches tucked beneath her pillow. It was a woman, gaunt, hollow-eyed, reaching through a broken mirror, fire in her hair, shadows behind her. In the corner of the drawing were scrawled the words in a child's messy hand. "She's not the monster, the other ones are." That night, Ava's mirror cracked. Chapter 3, The Fracture. Lena found her way to the Marshall's house just after midnight. The mirrors inside were vibrating. She could feel them, breathing, watching. She broke in through the back window and made her way to the hallway mirror, the one she remembered. And that's when she saw Ava. The girl stood in the hall, staring into the glass. Her reflection smiled at her, even though Ava hadn't moved. Lena grabbed her and pulled her back. "That's not you," she said. Ava blinked. "I know," and the mirror shattered on its own. Chapter 4, The Originals Awaken. All across the world, mirrors began to break, not from outside force, but from within. Because the reflections weren't trying to escape anymore. They were trying to let something in. The glass was a barrier, yes, but also a cage. And Lena had broken too many of them. In the broken fragments of glass, people began to see things. Teeth without mouths, eyes with no lids. Entire cities made of reflections and smoke. And at the center of it all, a throne, empty, waiting. The Reflection Book 3, The Glass Throne. Chapter 1, The Girl Who Came Through. It had been 3 days since Ava last spoke. Not out loud anyway. Her mother thought it was trauma, a phase, a reaction to the break-in, though no one could explain why there were no signs of entry and no fingerprints. But Ava wasn't traumatized. She was listening, because sometimes in the silence of mirrors and windows and puddles, she could still hear Lena's voice. They're waking up. Chapter 2, Lena's warnings. Lena was in hiding. The few mirrors left weren't safe. They were no longer just portals. They were predators. The glass hummed when she passed, calling to her like a song with no beginning or end. She carried shards in her pockets, broken pieces from her first escape. They whispered warnings. One night she lit a fire in an abandoned motel, arranging the shards in a circle. Each shard reflected something different. A diner, a hospital, a church, a school. But none showed her. They showed Ava, in every single one. Chapter 3, The Glass Throne. In the mirror realm, a figure sat where the throne had once been empty. Its body was fluid, shifting, made of reflections from other people. Its face changed constantly. A mother, a child, a soldier, a corpse. It had no name. It was every stolen reflection merged into one. And it whispered, "She is the door, the first and the last, the fracture and the seal." It meant Ava, because Ava was born in front of a mirror, during a thunderstorm, in a house where the mirror was older than the foundation, where something had seen her first breath and never stopped watching. Chapter 4, The Mirror Walker. Ava began to walk in her sleep, at first just to the hallway mirror, then to other glass surfaces, the microwave, the black screen of the TV, a puddle in the driveway. Each time, her reflection changed. It grew, older, smarter, more aware. Then one night she didn't return to bed. Her mother found her standing in the basement, in front of a shattered vanity mirror. Ava's eyes were white, and the concrete around her was cracked in a perfect circle. Carved into it were the words, "One must stay, one must go, the door must choose." Chapter 5, Lena's Choice. Lena arrived just after dawn, breathless, shaking. She had tracked the echoes of broken mirrors to this house. She found Ava in the basement, motionless, eyes closed, and in the mirror, Ava again, but older, smiling. "This isn't about taking," the reflection said. "It's about balance. Every world needs an anchor. She's the door. You are the key." Lena felt it then, the pull. She was never supposed to come back. She broke the natural order. She had to go back, to stay, to keep the mirror realm sealed. "I'm not afraid," she said. But Ava cried as Lena touched the glass and disappeared forever. Epilogue, The New World. Ava awoke changed, older, maybe, wiser, quieter. But the mirrors in the house didn't whisper anymore. They only watched. And in the realm behind them, Lena sat on a throne of broken glass, holding back the tide of teeth and shadow, until the next door opens. Until the wrong reflection smiles first.